Yo, we're back. MLB Data Warehouse. We are getting through team previews. It's been a while since I published a team preview. We got the Tigers and Guardians out, I think about a week ago now, and I haven't been able to put any more out, even though a lot of them are written. But I needed to get to this podcast because I've been pushing off the podcast. We did the Tigers and the Guardians, full written pieces in your inbox or on the Substack app or MLBDataWarehouse.com for Tigers and Guardians. And that is especially for this one going to be where you're going to get all the details. But I have done a podcast, or at least I haven't done a dedicated podcast for every team. I've combined some like we're doing today, but every team has been covered in one way or another. And we're going to just keep doing that. And we are already to this one will cover a division winner, which means we're getting close. Now the AL Central was not your normal division. The Guardians won it with 87 wins. Is that what it was? 88 wins. That one came down to the wire. Remember, the Tigers had the best record in baseball for the first couple months. Then just, it was never convincing. They were never looking like a great team. Their run differential was never really backed up their record, but the Guardians hunted them down. And I think it was the last day of the year. It was really something to see. Those like the plot of the win percentages as the time went on. Should have brought that up here since we're doing Guardians and Tigers. But yeah, meaning that we're into the good teams, quote unquote, for the team preview. So we're getting close to the end, which is always a relief for me for these to be done. But they are probably the most useful, most informative, certainly thing that I do here. And all 30 teams will be out soon. We've got, if you're watching here, you can see there's a dedicated page here for every team. And we're, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. We're 22, 23 teams in. And today we'll publish the Red Sox one along with this podcast. So let's go to the Tigers. We're going to be really even extra brief because we got to go do 3 teams. And once again, the whole details are going to have to read it. And you're going to have to pay for it too. So go to MLBDataWarehouse.com to get everything. And if you just want all the information, just stop this podcast because just read it. Everything that I say here will be in the written article, plus way more in that written. So Tigers made a park change. That's something to note, that the Comerica got a little bit more hitter friendly last year. You can look into that a bit more, but a big boost just in balls hitting the air, performing a lot better. The home run to barrel rate in 2022 hit the low 35%. It was just so low. It was really tough to hit homers there. Last year, 47.5%, pretty close to the league. Actually, that was a little bit above the league average. I think the league average came down to 46% or something last year. So it was typically around 50%, and then it's been dropping a bit. So you're kind of between 45 and 50% there in the Tigers Park, Comerica Park, right there. So not as big of a problem to be a hitter in Detroit anymore. So let's just look at the projections. Maybe there's a couple guys that I really like, and not really like, I guess, but some guys that I think you have some value on and some interest. So here's if you're watching, you get to see the whole Tigers projections. This projection app has really come along nicely here. And now we have MLBDW projections, Steamer, ATC, the bat, Oopsie. You even have an all function where you pick a player and it'll show you them all together. And now they're just today, Friday, January 23rd, I added finally the points calculations. You can click that show points button, pick your preferred scoring system, and get the calculated points for everybody. So that is nice to have. Of course, you can also, for hitters, adjust to 600 plate appearance projections. So it just gives everybody 600 plate appearances and see what they would do over a full season. That's useful for what it's useful for, comparing players kind of with equal playing time. But so that's going on. Riley Green is the first guy and really the main Tigers fantasy bat to know. He's in the top 75 ADP. Nobody else, I don't believe, is. 36 homers last year, 258 batting average, just getting better and better every year. He struck out more last year, up to 31%, which is a little bit alarming. But since it came with a 17.1% barrel rate, a 16% air pull, a 41% ground ball rate, like it's okay. The ceiling is capped by that. And the good news, he could probably come back down to 26, 27%. But last year, just a little bit of a dedicated attack. Maybe he saw the park change and decided, okay, well, I've got 40 homer upside here with this park change and with the power I have, so let's just sell out for it a bit. And this is a case where the strikeout rate coming up was clearly a part of a trade-off he made. So he was willing to strike out more, but hit more home runs. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, he played 20 more games last year, his first fully healthy season, 157 games played. But nobody's complaining about a 493 slugging, a 36 homers. And that comes with a bunch of RBIs, even in a kind of a mediocre lineup around him. But you will take you'll trade the batting average for that power production. And it was still a 246 expected batting average, like not bad. So his barrel rates have come up every year, 9, 11, 13, 17. That's his barrel rate progression. Air pull as well is coming up a couple points per year. So you might even be tempted to say there's another level. I mean, if he adds, I don't know how much you can add above a 17% barrel rate if you're not Aaron Judge or Ohtani or whatever, but there's a world where he hits 40 home runs, and that's Riley Green for you. I don't really think we need to get too much into the weeds on him. Just a very nice power source without steals and without not a threat for a high batting average, but doesn't have to hurt you there. Torkelson at first, just kind of the same situation. Hit 31 homers, nice bounce back year for him, but again, like 240 batting average, 2 steals. He's got 5 career steals now. His expected batting average 236. So it's empty power, but I do think there's room for him to even grow. He's very good at pulling the ball. And he's still pretty young. I mean, 26, a lot of good years ahead of him. Solidified in the lineup now. Maybe he can even shorten up the swing a tiny bit, knock a couple strikeouts off the rate. It was 26% last year. One of the highest guys in air pull. So you feel okay about you feel pretty good about Torkelson for what he's worth, but he's not going to be like a tier 1 first baseman ever. No steals, and just a little bit of a low batting average. I mean, the projections on him, it'd be interesting to see the comparison. 224 for my model, which is really low, but everybody else is below 240. I mean, 230 for ATC. So we don't think much of his batting average, but he walks. The OBPs are all above 310. So good player for points leagues, OBP leagues, definitely a boost there. And we'll cover all of these kind of guys that do better in points leagues than Roto. But for Roto, 30 homer threat for sure, but not much else after that. And that's kind of what you see with the Tigers. I've written a lot about Dylan Dingler already. I just think that he's super underrated. Hit a 360 expected WOBA, 299 expected batting average, and yet he's being drafted as like the 14th catcher or something like that. I don't know if this is adjusting, if people are realizing this, but maybe there's some playing time questions. But what I saw last year is when they needed a catcher, like he was the starter every day in the playoffs and down the stretch. Jake Rogers was kind of in there at the beginning, but he got hurt, and then he just never really didn't get his job back. Dylan Dingler was the guy. So he's not going to get like those 500 plate appearances that other guys can do, but he's the 18th catcher off the board. And I think he's probably a top 6 or 7 actual raw hitter. So undervalued there for sure. I like Dingler, but you don't need to go there in like a standard 12-team league where you only have 1 catcher starter per team, but underrated for sure. Kerry Carpenter, just kind of the same problems. Really good hitter against righties, but got a 69 weighted runs created plus against lefties in his career, hitting 207, slugging 335 against lefties. So he's just not going to play in those spots. That makes it tough in weekly leagues to start him because you're just not getting the volume. Played 130 games last year, 460 plate appearances. So, he's coming up 200 plate appearances shy of the league leaders. And that was with a pretty clean bill of health, I think. He's had some injury problems, but good hitter when he's in there. Not much OBP. That last year, at least, the walk rate fell to 3.9%, 23% K rate. So he's good per game, but kind of a tough dude because he's just not going to start against lefties. And they never wanted to even. It seemed like they were doing that from the jump. I mean, it seems like they kind of had in mind that even from the beginning, like that he would just be a platoon guy, and that hurts for fantasy. But 23% K rate, 497 slug last year. Like he's got per game upside for sure. Anybody else here? Lots written about Gleyber Torres, just kind of a better points league guy for him. Kevin McGonigal, we've talked a ton about in the prospect stuff. The thing to know about him is that he's not going to get a starting job. right away. We really don't think so unless there's some crazy injury situation. We would think that he's a 21-year-old. Not sure when he turns 22. He'll be 22 at some point next year, but not really a threat. We don't think to like play 140 big league games, and it could even take a really long time. I don't know. The Tigers aren't going to be super competitive, and I guess the division's pretty wide open. Power and speed, so his F scores are nice. Power F score 118, but the speed is 104, and we just don't know if his power will play in the majors right away. The best thing he does is plate discipline, a 131 F discipline score. K to walk hitter leaders, he was in the top 5 in all overall for all professional levels. McGonigal last year had an 11.6% K rate with a 15% walk rate, so significantly more walks than strikeouts. So I think he'll transition smoothly. It's just like you might only be getting like a 12-10 kind of pace, like 12 to 15 homer pace with a 8 to 12 steals or something like that. So not really someone I would be using a valuable bench spot on, but an IL stash, a minor league stash. He'll be a solid player right out of the gate, and the upside for the future is certainly up there. He's the number 1 or 2 prospect in baseball, depending on what list you're looking at. And let's go to the pitching now. We had, we wrote about McKinstry and Meadows and Colt Keith, just a bunch of boring guys. Wenceel Perez, just really not great hitters, but enough to kind of be big league hitters. I mean, there's not like, this isn't a pathetic lineup by any means. There's just not a lot of upside after Riley Green. So it's like a middle of the order lineup, I guess. And there's not too much that you need to know for fantasy purposes. Tarek Skubal, not sure. Apparently, remember, did you see that thing that was reported after Ranger Suarez, Ranger Suarez, formerly known, got traded to the Red Sox? He was like, yeah, by the way, my name is Ron Her, which, everybody in the world has been saying that wrong. So we'll try to do that. But I don't know. I think it's Tarek Skubal. I don't think it's Tariq. 29 years old. He will not be in a Tigers uniform after this year. I guess they can't say that with 100% certainty, but hasn't gotten traded yet. And at this point, I think the Tigers probably just ride it out for one more year, and they'll lose him to free agency, which is unfortunate. Always tough to see that for the, smaller, not that Detroit's not a small market team. That's not fair to say them, but so yeah, whatever, screw them. I don't care about the Tigers, so I don't feel bad for anybody, but do we need to talk about Skubal? I mean, is he your number 1? Is he your number 2? Or is he your number 3 this year? I think I'm going to have it at number 1, but you could put Skeens over him. You could put Crochet over him. Whatever, all things considered, I think he's my number 1. But if you want to go for the highest possible win total, that probably is Crochet. It's probably the right bet. But no problems at all with Skubal, and a trade quite probable to happen at some point. Unless the Tigers are about to win the division or something, there's actually a good chance that they're in the division race in July, and then they're not going to trade Skubal at that point. So I guess there's at least 50-50 chance that he just walks away from Detroit and they get nothing for him, which would be too bad. But quite possible he could get traded, and it could be a huge news coming up really any day that could happen. But my money would just be on them keeping him. Flaherty, 30-year-old, underrated here, man. Jack Flaherty. 19% K to walk last year. The 4.64 ERA and the 1.28 WHIP would make you think he wasn't good. A 1.3 home run per 9. That's always been a problem for him, giving up home runs. But he still had almost a 28% K rate, and the walk rate was under control. So again, 19% K to walk, like that's pretty good. And he is cheap this year. The fastball velo was down a bit, down to 92.9. Not a great pitch for him, 7.7% swinging strike rate, but he threw it for strikes, 53% strike rate. He earned strikes with it, did Flaherty, and the curveball was very good. So just an underrated guy. I mean, boring. He's tough to watch. He's tough to deal with because he has all these bad starts and these blowups, but overall the numbers are pretty good, the underlying stuff. I think you're going to really like what you get if you can grab him at this like 230 ADP. Let's see what the update on that was, because I wrote this one a few weeks back, and the ADP data is flying every day. So yeah, he's headed up even more. 240 about 240 is what's held on. 220 to 220, 230, 240, that range. So I like him there. There's a lot of guys that go ahead of him that are just don't have that kind of K minus walk stuff. And I get it. Like nobody wants to have Flaherty, but the numbers are better than you might think. I guess the park thing didn't really help him. It becoming more easy to hit homers in Detroit didn't help him, but underrated there. And I think that's probably it. I'm not going to talk about Casey Mize. Anybody who's been with MLB Data Warehouse for a couple of years knows about me and Casey Mize. So I'm going to try to move on from that. I'm not going to let him hold me back this year. And then Reese Olson, just doesn't have a fastball. I mean, the most interesting stat in this Tigers pitching staff is Reese Olson's 0.9% swinging strike rate on his sinker, 41% strike rate on the sinker. And strike rate, I remind you, it is so it's per pitch. And what you do is you add up the called strikes, the whiffs, and the foul balls that you get, and you divide that by total pitches thrown. So you might see strike rate. You will see strike rate on Fangraphs. It'll be way higher than mine. That's because they count balls in play as strikes, which is stupid because a ball in play is not a strike. I don't know why you would do that. A ball in play is most of the time a fine outcome. You know, the BABIP is 300 or so. So 70% of the time you're getting an out, but it's not a strike, and it's often a really bad outcome. Like all home runs are batted balls, and you don't want that. So my strike rate is better. Shout out to me, as always. And he did not do it with a sinker. I mean, he doesn't have a fastball. It's just a total disaster. Changeup and slider are so good, both 22 and 24% swinging strike rates on that slider and changeup respectively. Amazing breaking balls, but doesn't have a fastball. And I think he also isn't healthy. Like he can never throw innings. He's always hurt, and we project him for 140 innings here with a 3.77 ERA, a 1.21 WHIP. I just don't see it. I don't see him being a long-term starter. I don't see him ever being able to put out 180 innings, and it's going to be very inconsistent. The WHIP's probably going to be not great, and just you need a fastball, man, and he doesn't have it. And this isn't a new thing. It wasn't a small sample thing last year because he was hurt or whatever. I mean, it did bottom out, and he's been better in the past, but it's never been good. It's always been a huge issue for him, and he just can't seem to figure it out. So I am off of Reese Olson, but let's go to the Guardians now. Really quick team. I mean, if you had a list of like 3 teams, if you said, John, like I can only fit 27 teams worth of knowledge into my head for this fantasy baseball season, give me the 3 I don't need to worry about, and I can save time. Like the Guardians would probably be one of those. Just not a lot going on here. But J-Ram, you know the story with him. His last 2 years at the ages of 32 and 33 have been arguably his best seasons. He's got 69 home runs and 85 steals in these last 2 years. He's played 150 games, 152 games minimum over the last 5 years, 636 plate appearance minimum over the last 5 years. Both of those minimums were 2021. Last year, the last 2 years, he's played 158 games right on the dot, 680, 670 plate appearances, and just fantastic. Fantastic production. 280 batting average the last 4 years, at least 24 homers, at least 20 steals, and the last 2 years have been ridiculous. Practically 40-40 in 2024, and then last year for J-Ram, 30 homers, 44 steals. Like round 1 stud. No signs of aging, and you can take him comfortably again. Like really no change here. Eventually it'll happen, but I don't see it now. Steven Kwan kind of gets there fantasy value wise. He had 11 homers last year. Not great, not good at all really for 156 games worth. But I mean, it's better than the 5 he hit in 2023. And in 2024, he hit 14, so he can get to double digits. He's done that 2 straight years. And the steals came up last year as well. So he kind of put together finally the double-digit home runs last year with 20 steals and a 272 batting average. So he gave up a little bit of batting average for the power. He's hit 292 and he's hit 298 in the past, did Kwan. So you're hoping for runs, average, and steals from him, but it's all pretty low ceiling. Like I really could see a year where he hits single-digit home runs, 15 steals. And if he doesn't score a bunch of runs, which the Guardians aren't going to be very good, I don't think, but we've said that every year for the last 3 or 4, and they have been good. They're not great at run scoring, so I think it could be pretty mediocre. I mean, for a deep league, he's obviously someone that should be started. He should be started in every league, but I would just rather go for upside with, he's being drafted in the top 200, I think. What's the update on that? I get it. He's safe, and you know what he's going to do, and he's a good batting average guy, which isn't always easy to find. But ADP is like 190, 180, and it's just I'd rather have some ceiling there. If the Guardians were going to be better, and I thought that he could be like a 100-run score guy, that's a different story. But I don't really see him there. Kyle Manzardo, a fly ball, absolute monster, just hits a ton of fly balls, and then last year played enough to hit 27 home runs. I didn't even realize he hit that many. Kind of a platoon guy and not the biggest EVs, but still he hits the ball in the air so often that he went for an 11.8% barrel rate, pulled it at a good rate, 19% air pull. Didn't hit it super hard, but it gets the ball in the air, like I said. 35% fly ball rate is one of the highest in the league, gets it in the air. So he can hit some home runs. And at this point, I don't know who they would really platoon him with. They probably want him to platoon. He's not much of a defensive player and not much of a hitter against lefties so far, but they haven't added on. They haven't done this first base platoon thing. Like the last couple of years, they had Carlos Santana and Ty France over there. Sorry, Ty France isn't. He's a twin. But they've had different veterans and stuff going on. But I don't know, maybe he actually will play 130 games or something like that. And he can hit some home runs, but I think that's about it. I think the batting average is going to be really low. 233 expected last year. Not a steals guy, middling, like a 26% K rate. So nothing fantastic with Manzardo, but cheap power for sure. Projected for 20 homers. If we go look at what the other systems are doing, we're all under 600 plate appearances, but we're at like 540, 550 plate appearances. ATC has him for 26 bombs. Everybody's under a 240 batting average. So it's that classic like empty power profile Manzardo, but young enough to maybe take another step forward. And I wouldn't be surprised if he has a pretty nice year. Chase DeLauder, another prospect that we've talked a lot about. Just the question of he hasn't technically debuted in the regular season yet. He made his debut in the playoffs last year. So really good inside track to make the MLB team out of camp, but he can't stay healthy like at all. We've talked about that a bunch as Doc went even back to like his high school days, and he just like doesn't play baseball because he's always hurt. So I would avoid it for those reasons. The injury sheet is pretty wild, and you can look at that and learn more about that on the post here. But good hitter, very talented hitter. There's a reason he was a top prospect, first round pick and stuff like that. But it seems unlikely that he has the body to hold up as a pro athlete. Travis Bazzana, he was another first-round pick that we should see. Probably not right away, but we'll see. 120 plate appearances at AAA last year, so he's probably ready to make it, but higher strikeout rates. I mean, he's at 26% K rate in the minor leagues, which usually turns into trouble in the majors, but good power, good speed. He should play at a 15-15 pace, like minimum, and hits the ball well, and we'll see, but I don't think you need to draft him in standard leagues. Doesn't seem to have that kind of crazy upside for this year, and who knows how long it'll take to get him up. But there is he's a second baseman, and they'll need him at some point. And second base is weak, and there's upside there with Bazzana. So threw him in there. There's a lot of information there, and in the Guardians prospect preview, which you can check out. Tim's done a ton of prospect work. If you don't know about this stuff, like go to MLB.warehouse.com. If you're in a dynasty league, I kind of do think you pretty much have to be subscribing. I mean, you don't have to be. Do whatever you want, but MLB.warehouse.com for $12 a month, you just get all kinds of prospect stuff that you can't really find anywhere else. Gavin Williams, there's some fights about him. Like some people who really think he's a breakout. And you don't have too many guys that will show up on somebody's breakout list and somebody else's bust list, but that's kind of where you're at with Gavin Williams. He ADP's around 150, so he's a standard league dude. He finished the year really well last year. Even had a really nice start in the playoffs that maybe people will remember. Finished with a 26% K rate. In the second half. So his last 11 starts were awesome. 2.27 ERA, 109 whip, 26% K. Got the walk rate under 9.7%, 16% K minus walk. So that was his best work, but we're cutting it in half, right? His first half was bad. He has a long history of just not having the command. The one thing that you maybe can hang your hat on here is that the sinker started showing up late. He debuted the sinker in mid-May, and it kind of ticked up a little bit. It got up to significant usage later on, and it kind of more or less coincided, like the sinker usage coincided with the improvements. And it does make some sense to me. Like a sinker is a pitch that if you want to walk fewer guys, you throw this sinker. It seems to be the one that's easiest to throw in the strike zone. For him, it was a 49% strike on it. So that's good news, 30% ball. I do think that can knock down his walk rate, but at the same time, sinkers, it only had a 4% swinging strike rate, which is way below his four-seamer. So if he's trading four-seamers for sinkers, he'll walk fewer, but the strikeout rate will come down as well. So it kind of goes both ways in that regard. Maybe it works for him, and the early returns were good on it, and I think you'll see that pitch for him. He's a huge dude with big fastball velo. He averages 96.6 on the four-seamer. It's a good pitch. Just doesn't have a great pitch. I mean, 46% strike rate overall last year, 12.6% swinging strike rate with a 38% ball rate. I would be more on the sell side, I think, at this 150 ADP, but I could see him really stepping forward and having a breakout season. Like, I think his talent-wise and just kind of all the numbers and all the speculation stuff, that makes it feel like a breakout player for Gavin Williams, but then the price and the actual history of results make it seem like a bust. So that's kind of why I guess people are going in either direction. I wouldn't like to go, if I did 10 drafts, I'd like to take Williams once or twice, but I'd be more on the pessimistic side of him. Tanner Bybee, this is a buy for me. Buy Bybee, just because he was so bad last year, right? Does that make any sense? This is that kind of reverse thinking that we need to be doing. He had his worst year last year, 4.2 ERA, 21% K rate. He dropped 5 points off the strikeout rate. So why would we want to buy him now? Well, it's because he got really cheap. I mean, we think anytime we go from a 26% K rate to a 21% K rate, the most logical next value in that is like 23, 24%. Like that's what the projection should be, which means he should do better. And the price is down. So ADP 180 or so. I mean, he can be had for like SP4, SP5, SP6, maybe, depending on how many teams are in your league. And yeah, I mean, he has no ceiling for sure. Like his fastball's bad. It's almost like a Reese Olson situation. Fastball's not quite as bad, but his breaking balls aren't quite as good compared to Reese Olson. Last year, Bybee's four-seamer, 27% usage, so he was kind of trying to hide it. He had 6 pitches in the repertoire. Four-seamer was bad, 44% strike rate, 5.8% swing strike rate. It's not going to work. Got to figure something out on that regard. It wasn't that bad before. It's never been a good pitch, but he kind of got by with it in 2023, 2024. So I think he can improve a little bit on that, but it's a problem for him, and it does definitely limit the upside. Cutter was good, 15% swing strike rate, 51% strike rate, a 119 grade on the cutter. So maybe that's the answer. Just kind of scrap the four-seamer, throw cutters, maybe have Gavin teach you that sinker or something. But sweeper's good, changeup's pretty good. Lot to work with. I just think that, again, he's not going to be someone you're feeling confident as your second or third SP in fantasy leagues, but I think he's pretty good as a 4 or 5, and I think there'll be a bounce back for him here. So it's just kind of a price-based buyback in for Bybee. Cantillo, just no thanks. Doesn't have a fastball, 92 mile an hour four-seamer from the left side, 6.5% swing and strike rate. And so same problem as Bybee, the difference being that he doesn't have a deep pitch mix. His next pitch is a changeup, which is wicked for sure, 26.2% swing and strike rate. Small sample though, but very good with the changeup, but just doesn't even have a cutter or a sinker. Like he's kind of dedicated. He's kind of tied to this four-seamer, which just isn't very good. Long history of walk rates for him too. Like Bybee has a good track record of command. Cantillo doesn't have that, so I'm pretty off of him. And at this point, after Bybee and Williams, you're like, who are they even going to go with? We feel pretty good about Parker Messick staying in the rotation, lefty, deceptive. Kind of the same issue as Cantillo. Not an unsimilar pitcher with Messick, but better command. The fastball isn't great. It's also low velo, 92.8 mile an hour on average, but 57% strike rate. I mean, he was really fooling people with it. Now, with the tape out on him and stuff, can the hitters do better? I think for sure. I think he overperformed last year, but the history with him is just he's never given up home runs. He's always he has this deceptive way about him, this changeup that is really hard to get in the air. Surrendered just a 231 expected WOBA on a very small sample of changeups in the majors last year. So not a high ceiling. Williams is the only Cleveland pitcher, at least in this rotation right now, with any kind of ceiling. But I think Messick's floor could be pretty nice. Just seems like a crafty lefty with good command that can buy some extra strikeouts with the deception, even without a lack of big time stuff. But four-seam, changeup, slider, sinker, curveball. He's got 5 pitches, all used over 12% of the time. So I think the floor is nice, and I would buy in on him. I imagine he's getting more expensive, as a lot of people have been talking about him. Maybe no, not really. He's started around ADP 300, and now he's kind of trailing up to 320. I don't see the Guardians adding anybody else. They're never really a team to build through free agency. They lost Luis Ortiz, so I think he's got I don't know why he wouldn't make the original rotation, and if nothing else, he'll get in there soon. To me, he's better than Cantillo and Ciccone, who we'll talk about next. Pretty clearly, at least if you're talking about a starter. Like I think Cantillo could be a pretty nasty reliever. Not sure if that'll work for Messick, but we don't want that anyway. We want him to be a starter. So I'm drafting some Messick. Ciccone, just another guy. Like the Guardians just don't really know how to develop fastballs, I guess. A bunch of bad four-seamers in this organization. Weird organization. They like these infielders that make a ton of contact. They never have big power hitters, but they don't strike out. And they have these pitchers that, I don't know, they overperform a little bit, but none of them have good fastballs. So that's probably not an organizational thing and just a consequence of the random personnel they've ended up with. But yeah, Ciccone's got a lot of pitches. He throws a ton of strikes. He kind of just goes right at dudes. he doesn't earn strikes, but he throws it in the zone, I should say. So a lot of balls go in play, and that lets him get deep into games when the balls are being hit at people. But a 9.6% swinging strike rate, a 44% strike rate, everything's bad. I would not be counting on much from Ciccone, but don't be surprised if he pops off for a complete game shutout at some point, just because he gets he gets 27 outs and 22 of them are just line drives that hit right at people or something, because he can be efficient because he's just throwing so many hittable strikes, and that's overall that's bad, but it does turn into pretty good outings when the BABIP goes his way. So that's the Guardians. Those two are already published, so some of you at least have probably already read those. And this new one today is the Red Sox, which is a much more interesting team than the last two we just did. So we'll maybe, I don't know, spend a little bit more time on it. Roman Anthony, and the first thing you notice with him is just the age. He's 21. He was the number 1 overall prospect, just really blew away minor leagues. I mean, got to the majors super quick. 292 average last year, 859 OPS in his debut. That's obviously awesome, but a 27.7% K rate. Walked a bunch at 13%. So kind of a good leadoff man, more raw power than you typically get for a leadoff man, and a higher strikeout rate, but very patient, 37% swing rate, which is almost too low. I mean, I think he needs to be a little bit more aggressive there, especially because his zone contact rate is 81%. I say it all the time. If you have a zone contact rate of 90%, then yeah, you can take strike one and strike two, because you will not strike out at a high rate because you're that good at getting the ball into play when you have to. But with Roman Anthony, if he's only swinging 37% of the time, which is super low, and then he's only, he's whiffing at a higher rate than you would like in the zone, all these things can change. Again, he's only 21, so we almost shouldn't even look at the numbers for someone this young, because they're likely to change drastically. But a little bit too patient, and I think you'll see that come up. 51% ground ball rate as well. So there's your problem. Too patient, too many strikeouts, and a high ground ball rate. So and a 404 BABIP last year helped him. He definitely overperformed, right? He was not truly an 859 OPS kind of player. And if nothing changes, then I would expect that all to come down next year. But you have to bet on the age and the talent, right? He's got huge exit velocities, max of 113.7 last year, 107.490th. Didn't pull it and didn't get it in the air very much, but those are the things that from young, talented hitters, they usually correct that pretty quick. It's often a struggle early on. Ellie De La Cruz, Gunnar Henderson, all these guys had low pull rates. Ellie still does, but they all hit the ball on the ground initially, in their first couple hundred plate appearances, and they've both figured that out, and it seems to just get better and better all the time. And I think that's the arc you're going to see with Anthony. So does it happen right away in 2026? Maybe not. Maybe it's still a struggle, but this is the perfect time to buy in on him. 300 plate appearances into his major league career. Seems like he's going to be a total stud. And now is probably the last time he'll even be a little bit cheap. But could be wrong about that. You never know. And he's not super cheap right now. The ADP hovering in the top 70 every time. He's even usually in the top 60. So you're having to use a 4th or 5th round pick on him. Not sure I would do that for 2026 redraft. That seems to be pricing in most of the upside, but for long term, this guy could very well be a 1st or 2nd round pick next year. That wouldn't be surprising. OBP leagues, big boost there too. The projection is a 383 OBP. That's just my model, which might be a little bit too hot, but we'll see. ATC has him for a 356 OBP. So everybody's over a 350 OBP. My model's just kind of crazy. I'm probably 20 points too high on batting average, but yeah, my thing is over the moon. I got him for 30 home runs, 11 steals, a 281 batting average. Again, cool your jets, because ATC has him 18 homers, 10 steals, 263 batting average. But even that, pretty good, hitting on top of the Red Sox lineup, 82 runs projection for ATC. So he can do a lot of good things. And I think now is the time to buy in for upside only. But I guess, again, the ADP for redraft isn't all that enticing. Jarren Duran, 29-year-old, had the big 2024 season with 21 homers and 34 steals last year. Worst, stayed healthy again, 157 games for Duran last year, 16 homers, 24 steals. The exit velocity was the best of his career, though, 108.0 in the 90th percentile. EV, 252 expected batting average. Just doesn't get it in the air very much, doesn't pull it very much, so the barrel rate was 9.7%. And the steal rate, the attempt rate came down to 19%, 24 bags, though, still a 2020 threat for sure. And I think he'll probably project around there. It seems like he's a decent buy low after a somewhat disappointing season. Projection, the ATC has 16 homers, 23 steals, 260 batting average. That's about what it is across the board. I have him for 18, 21, and a 262. And he'll hit near the top of the lineup. Maybe he's not the leadoff guy with Anthony there, and some struggles against lefties and stuff. And he's an aggressive, no strike that. He's a normal, his swing rate's normal. So just a little bit subject to cold spells and stuff, but he is one of just 7 players in baseball last year that had 90th percentile bat speed and sprint speed at the same time, right? So tools are off the charts, and the 25-25 270 is well within the range of outcomes for him, but the projections are a little bit more bearish on that. 262 batting average, projected 450 slug. So I want to buy, though. I like the 2020 guy that you can get without paying a big price. He was pretty expensive last year, but now he's ADP like 85, between 70 and 90. So I'll take that quite often. Trevor Story, I mean, can still play. Obviously, big season for him last year. 25 homers, 31 steals. Was one of the key players. Like, he was the guy that kind of won you the league. If anybody did that, not one player ever wins the league, but he was definitely one of those guys that, like, you'll see on a high percent of championship teams. They got him for free. He played all year and proved that he can still play. Dropped the K rate to 27%. Hit 25 bombs, like I said. 82% zone contact rate. I mean, it was all good. Huge season for Story. 329 BABIP helps, but that's kind of who he is. He's a higher BABIP guy, good speed, good power. 2020 threat, the projections, 20 homers, 16 steals, and 600 plate appearances, but that is assuming 600 plate appearances. So it's really just a question of health. Can he stay healthy? And he hasn't until last year. So it feels a little bit like a buy high to me, but you can see the kind of round 1, round 2 upside he has still. I would say maybe more round 2 or round 3 upside if things go well. He's old, is up there in age, and I just don't really see him playing 155 games again. ADP around 110. It's fine. If you're playing for upside, then he's certainly a good shortstop pick. You can wait. You can get him several rounds later than the other studs and still get most of that upside, but you're going to have to hope for another good season on the health front. So Dan Rafaela, 16 homers last year, 20 steals. Cut the K rate under 20%. Big improvement there. Even walked a little bit, 5% walk rate. Almost he doubled his walk rate from the previous year. But he swings so much, 59% swing rate. He's just subject to so many cold spells and stuff. The by the ball profile is awful. I mean, like, all of the savant bars in the batting column are blue. Has almost nothing above the 50th percentile. So, but power and good speed and some power, and but it's too expensive. The price on him is coming down. Even he's like ADP 130, 120 recently, which is a little bit crazy because he's not a huge power guy. He can hit some home runs, but he's more of steals. The batting average can be really bad because he's so aggressive and chases so many pitches. 2nd percentile chase rate. And he's going to hit at the bottom of the lineup. His most common batting order spot last year was 70th. So I don't really get that ADP at all. I think that's pretty good fade. Wilson Contreras was on the Red Sox. I'm starting to lose my voice. I don't have any water, so I'm not used to talking this much. I usually just listen to my kids talk. It's 2 degrees here, by the way, so we're totally stuck inside. I mean, these are rough times for me. We need the spring badly. Wilson Contreras is at first base. Projection for him, it's good. It was a good move getting out of St. Louis into Boston. It was a very good thing for him. Projections are about 22, 23 home runs, 250 batting average, handful of steals. Has potential for a bunch of RBIs that he's going to hit right in the middle of a good Red Sox lineup. Willie Abreu, will he play against lefties? Will they trade him? Will he have to sit a little bit? I mean, the outfield's still pretty crowded there. They traded Garcia, but they didn't trade anybody else. So it's like a kind of a battle. You would think that Abreu doesn't play every day against lefties, but he mashes righties. A very good hitter against righties. Can pull it, can hit some home runs. Not a lot of steals, but that's the story with him. He's not necessarily like a 10-team league guy just because he doesn't play. The highest plate appearance projection on him is 518 from Oopsie. And even that only gets him to 20 homers, 10 steals, 250 average. So pretty replaceable, but a good hitter for what he's worth. Good platoon bat. And let's go to the pitching. There's a lot more hitters written up there, but I'll leave that to you to go read. Crochet is going to pretty much rip through him too. We talked about Skubal already in this one. It's, as I've said over and over, like the big 3. I mean, Skubal, Crochet, Skeens, and there's a good argument for Crochet being number one. I mean, he was phenomenal last year. 33% K rate, 5.6% walk rate, 108 home runs per 9, sub 3 ERA, 104 WHIP. Everything's great. Sorry, those numbers were actually 2024 to 2025. 350 innings there, though. So he's been an innings eater. I mean, he's just done everything. He's total tier 1. You don't often get that elite volume with elite ratios, but Crochet gives you that. So if you want the wins, like we said, like Red Sox are very likely to win more games than the Pirates and the Tigers. So I could see going with Crochet as number one. I've got Skubal, Crochet, and Skeens as my top 3. Sonny Gray over here, still another 20% K minus walk. That was his second straight year, well above 20%. Last year, he had a 26.7% K rate, 5% walk rate right on the dot, 4.28 ERA, though, 1.2 home runs per 9. Bad fastball, lists a lot of breakers, really mixes it up. Crafty veteran, but a park downgrade. I could see him getting into some home run trouble in Fenway. We've seen that a lot. I mean, Nick Pivetta, his career was pretty beaten up. Cutter Crawford, these guys, just a lot of guys that go in, Lucas Giolito, a lot of righty fly ball hitters that go to Fenway and just get bombed with home runs. Gray's not that bad, 45% of ground ball rate. And again, he's got 7 or 8 pitches to throw. So he can mix it up. He knows what he's doing. He continually puts up decent strikeout numbers and stuff, but it seems pretty volatile. I mean, the fastball isn't there. So if he loses any command, it could be ugly. But I still kind of like him for what he's worth. He's the Red Sox I was going to say clear. Is he the clear SP2? He's at least the SP3. I think he probably starts the second game of the year as they go lefty-righty. So you have to know Gray. You might not want him, but he's probably a top 30, top 40 starting pitcher. Connolly early. So this is where things start to get really questionable because I like Connolly early a ton, as I've talked about a lot. Like just deep pitch mix, good command, was awesome in a short sample in the majors last year. Looked good. I mean, just incredible numbers. It was all of 323 pitches, so it's all grain of salt. He didn't give up a home run. 32% K minus walks. 32% K minus walk. That's right. I didn't say that wrong. Just looked really, really sharp, really good, really unique, kind of Max Fried style guy with multiple pitches, good deception, great command. So could be a really, really good pitcher. I don't know if he's ever SP1 kind of territory. His strikeout rate's probably not going to be all that fantastic. It's going to come way down from last year, like no doubt. The projection's probably like 25% or something like that. It's just a question of will he have to start in AAA because the Red Sox rotation right now is the 2 we talked about, and then they just have all these names. I mean, they've added pitching. It was already somewhat crowded, and then they've added on. They added Sonny Gray in the trade, and then they added Johan Oviedo in the Pirates trade. And then the guy we didn't even write up in this one because it happened before he signed is Ron Suarez, right? So the top 3 are Crochet, Suarez, Gray, and then it's Bello, Brian Bello, and Johan Oviedo in the projected rotation. And I kind of think that's right. I think they probably want to see what they have in Oviedo, and I think early starts in AAA now. One injury changes things, but it's not even Oviedo that he's only battling with. They have Cutter Crawford returning. They have Patrick Sandoval on a big contract. It's a weird thing they did. They signed him to a pretty decent contract before even knowing he wouldn't be pitching last year. He's coming back from elbow surgery. And then, I guess not as big of a threat, but Kyle Harrison is there and Peyton Tolley as well. So I certainly hope that Early makes the rotation, and I think he's probably their fourth best now, I guess, Suarez. I would take him over Bello, but I know the Red Sox aren't going to actually start him over Bello because Early can go to the minors. So you might not get 25 starts out of him, but I'm excited for him. I want him on my teams when he is in there. So Bello's in there. Just you don't want to roster Bello. If they gave him this contract extension like a couple of years ago, they extended him a ton, and that is what it just keeps him starting all the time. And he's fine. Like had a good year, gave him a good ERA. And he's good for volume, like he doesn't get hurt. But if he did get hurt, I don't know, I'm speaking for the Red Sox, I guess, but like if Bello gets hurt and he's Tommy John and goes out for the year, like I think the rotation probably gets better because then they can put in Tolley or Early for him, and that's an upgrade. I think even Kyle Harrison might be better than Brian Bello. So I don't know. We're not hoping for an injury or whatever. Not that it makes a difference if I am. Like, whatever. Me hoping that. I'm not hoping that. I just won't draft these guys for this reason. But let's just say, like, if you hope for a guy to get hurt, it doesn't actually make them get hurt. But you probably shouldn't be doing that. Probably not great for your mind to be wishing ill on another person. Peyton Tolley, really, really good fastball. Just insane stuff on the fastball. But that's kind of all he has. I think he's definitely going to start in AAA. I think he's probably like the SP7 or 8 on the list right now. So he would need a lot to go his way to make the rotation early on in the year. But he'll get in there. I mean, really intriguing prospect. Just the fastball is so good. 96.6 mile an hour average from the left side, but he threw it 64% of the time. So he's got to develop more pitches. His cutter was 20% usage, his changeup 7% usage, slider 5%, curve 5%. So you can't do that in the majors no matter how good your fastball is. You got to trim it down. It's got to go to the minors, I think, and tune that changeup, use more cutters and probably get a little more sliders. If nothing else, cutters, changeup, four-seamer, but the four-seamer will take him quite a long ways if he just has anything decent to team with it. So a lot of upside for Tolley in the future. I just don't see it happening in the Red Sox rotation this year, so I wouldn't be taking him. Johan Oviedo, good stuff. I'm familiar with him as a Pirate, just no command. Command's always been terrible, but the stuff plus stuff loves him. So if you're a stuff plus guy, you like this dude, but it doesn't really matter what the stuff plus is if it's not in the strike zone, and that's been a big problem for him. Red Sox probably see something in him. I don't know if he was like, we don't know for sure if this was like the particular target they were like after him specifically, but they liked him enough to trade for him and trade a top 100 prospect for him. So I think he'll get a chance. I just don't think you need to count on it. I think he fits better as a reliever, and I think eventually that's where you'll see him. But it's possible maybe they unleash something and he finds the command and uses that big fastball and slider to be a pretty good pitcher. But we'll see. I mean, he's a breakout possibility for sure, but right now I wouldn't want to be betting on that because of the lack of command. So, all right, that's it. That's Tigers, Guardians, Red Sox, and we'll head to the weekend for me. I don't know, but you're listening to this at all different times. So modatawarehouse.com to read way more about these three teams as well as everything else, projections, tools, all that stuff. I think I don't need to even be saying that stuff anymore, but that's it. We'll talk to you next time as we get through this team preview series. Peace.